First, let me just comment on the comments made by the senator from Georgia, because I was privileged to be in Afghanistan several years ago when the Oklahoma 45th actually took a great responsibility in the training over there, and also of turning over some of the training to the Afghans. They've done a good job, but as the senator pointed out, this takes resources and it takes equipment and it takes money to do it. So I applaud him and want to join him in his effort to provide the resources necessary to make that happen. Let me make a couple of comments. We'll have some amendments coming up concerning the C-17. I'd like to share maybe an opposing view from some of the things that we have heard. I was deeply distressed. I guess it was April when we got the defense budget, the portion of the president's budget that has to do with defense. The termination of such programs as the F-22, the next generation bombers, the future combat system, and particularly the doing away with our commitment to Poland and the Czech Republic to have an opportunity there to knock down a missile, an ICBM coming to the United States from Iran, when we know that they should be having that capability by around 2015. But today I want to just mention a couple of things about the C-17. The Air Force budget justification documents state, and I'm quoting now, the C-17 can perform the entire spectrum of airlift missions and is specifically designed to operate effectively and efficiently in both strategic and theater environments. I can remember when the first C-17 came in. The training takes place actually in my state of Oklahoma at Altus Air Force Base, and in 1995, it was the spring of 1995, the first C-17 went into Altus Air Force Base. At that time, the chief was General Fogelman, and I was honored to accompany him and actually sit in the right seat and see what this new spectacular airplane was. We never dreamed at that time that we would have the use of the C-17 to the extent that we did in Bosnia and Kosovo, missions that we didn't dream at that time we would have to be confronted with. And every time you watch the news and see a disaster or an emergency of some type anywhere on this earth, our military is involved, you're going to see the C-17. The country and its military must be able to engage globally, and the C-17 enables engagement. Now, in my 22 years on the Hill, I've seen our airlift requirements increase, not decrease. I've had experience. Sometimes I think you talk about a system, a platform like the C-17. Our dealing with that doesn't happen in a vacuum. Right now we have other lift vehicles. We have the C-130s, the better ones, the C-130Js. We have the C-130Es, which are getting old and outdated. I actually had two experiences on two of my trips coming into and out of Baghdad. One experience was when we actually lost not one engine, but two engines. Now we're talking about some pretty old, beat-up E models that shouldn't be flying right now. The very next trip, I was with, I remember it was the first trip from our recently retired senator from Florida, when we were actually received some SAM activity. We had to fire the flares, and the reason we did, it was 8 minutes after taking off from Baghdad, but the engine should have had us out of SAM range. However, the E models are getting old and tired, and so it is life-threatening. And I say that even though I'm here to talk about C-17s. We can absorb a lot of the deficiencies that we have in other areas by increasing our number of C-17s. So it's currently the only aircraft capable of performing every airlift mission, whether ferrying troops and supplies or to remote airfields overseas, or returning wounded service members back home. The Congressional Research Service has indicated that the C-17 was designed to fly 1,000 hours a year over 30 years. However, as our overseas commitments have grown since 2001, the fleet has averaged 1,250 hours per year instead of 1,000 hours a year. And some aircraft have even reached as high as 2,400 hours in a single year. Now, in November of '08, the GAO study stated, and I'm quoting now, the C-17 production line is currently scheduled to close in September of 2010, with the supplier base and portions of the line closing sooner. The study concludes that an analysis indicates that once closed, it would not be feasible or cost-effective to restart the production due to the costs for hiring and training a new workforce, reinstalling tooling, and reestablishing the supply base. So that's what the study concluded. And the GAO estimates that restarting the line could cost up to $1 billion. This is something we're always concerned with when you talk about altering the life of a particular platform. But this is one that I just don't see how we can get along without. I know that we've had the C-5, I remember the old C-141, a lot of lift capacity, a lot of tired C-130s, but the prize of all these capabilities is the C-17. And while the administration objects to funding 10 additional C-17s based on 205 C-17s and the existing fleet of C-5 aircraft, the Air Force has cut the number of C-5s. It plans to fully modernize by more than half because of substantial cost increase in the modernization efforts. In a testimony to the House Armed Services Committee in May of '09, the Air Force said that it will fully modernize only 52 of the 40-year-old C-5s. And while we're upgrading some of these aircraft, others, specifically the C-5As, they need to be retired. Now, however, this Congress, through bill language, is preventing the Air Force from retiring some of these old vehicles. In terms of cost, the GAO calculated that, and I'm quoting now, DOD would need to fully modernize 7 C-5s to attain the equivalent capability achieved from acquiring 1 additional C-17, and the cost would be 3 times more. It found that the unit cost of modernizing 1 C-5 is $132 million, while the unit cost of 1 new C-17 is $267 million. Now, to put it another way, it means that it would take 7 modernized C-5s to provide the capability equivalent to 1 new C-17, or $924 million worth of work on modernizing the C-5 to provide the capability equivalent to procuring 1 additional new C-17 at $276 million. So I'm hoping when this issue does come up, we'll have a chance to think that through. And I would say this, even if we're inclined to do that, to go along with the smaller number, it would seem to me that we should not be doing that until we have the quadrennial defense review and the upcoming mobility capability and requirement study. Now, these, it's my understanding, would come sometime early in 2010. So I would suggest that we at least wait until we have the benefit of that before taking such drastic action. Let me mention one other thing that happened last night, just for clarification. At midnight last night, the highway program and the American people suffered a major loss because of